Ever get that feeling like you're talking but nobody's listening? Or maybe you're the one who just can't seem to understand where other people are coming
Oh,
from.
yeah, it's like we're speaking different languages.
Exactly. Well, today we're going to try to crack the code of communication styles.
Ooh, a code.
Haha, sort of. We're using the DISC system, which you might also know as DISC. And hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll have some new tools to navigate those frustrating interactions and actually connect with people.
Tools.
Yeah, think of it that way. We're taking inspiration from Thomas Erikson's book, Surrounded by Idiots. Have you ever heard of it?
Rings a bell. Is
Hmm.
that the one where the author was like, why is it so easy to talk to some people and such a pain with others?
Bingo. That's the one. He basically went on a mission to figure out why people just don't get each other sometimes, and that led him to the whole disc thing.
Which we're going to break down.
Exactly. We're going to break it all down.
Okay.
So before we jump into the nitty-gritty, let's make one thing clear. This isn't about labeling people or putting them in boxes.
No way.
Yeah.
It's more about understanding patterns.
Exactly. Like, DISA, that stands for dominance, inducement, submission, and analytical ability.
And they get assigned colors.
Yeah.
Red, yellow, green, blue, right?
Yeah, you got it. But it's crucial to remember those are just frameworks.
Yeah, people are way too complex to be just one color.
Totally agree. It's more like, imagine you've got this toolbox, right? And it's filled with different tools.
Okay, I like this analogy.
You wouldn't use a hammer to tighten a screw, just like you wouldn't use the same approach with every single person.
So you got to pick the right tool for the job.
Exactly. Knowing whether you're dealing with a red or a blue can help you communicate better. It's all about adjusting your approach.
Kind of like becoming fluent in different communication languages.
Exactly. So, ready to dive into the colors?
Let's do it. I'm all ears.
Awesome. Okay, let's start with red.
Bold choice. I like it.
Well, it's the color of action. And according to Erikson, maybe a bit of drama too.
Oh, I'm sensing some stories coming.
Oh, definitely. Like the one about the CEO, Bjorn. He's super efficient, but also can be a bit intense.
Uh-oh. Intense how?
Like imagine being on a phone call with him and he just hangs up mid-sentence. No warning, just click.
Yikes.
Hmm,
That's dot direct.
that's a red for you. Always on the move, getting things done. But yeah, sometimes they forget about the whole tact thing. So what do you think are some signs you're dealing with a red?
Well, they probably don't beat around the bush.
You got it. Direct, to the point, action-oriented. They're those born leaders, Making decisions on the fly. Think Steve Jobs or Margaret Thatcher.
Those are some strong personalities.
Right. But like you said before, every strength has its shadow.
True. So what's the flip side of all that red energy?
Well, remember Bjorn, driving in the bus lane just because it's faster.
Oh, yeah, bending the rules a bit much.
Exactly. Sometimes that directness can come across as blunt, and they can be impatient, especially with those who are a little more, well, laid back.
I can see that clashing with the greens and blues for sure.
Big time. So how do you think we can navigate a conversation with a red without, getting hung up on?
I'm guessing they appreciate straight talk, no fluff.
You're catching on. Be clear, be concise, and don't try to sugarcoat things. Honesty is their jam, even if it's a little tough to hear.
But what if you disagree with them? Won't that cause fireworks?
It might, but reds actually respect people who stand their ground.
Really?
Yeah, just make sure you're respectful and stick to the facts.
For a little bit of strategic challenging. Got it.
Exactly. Now, let's switch gears completely.
Get me.
Let's talk about yellows, the social butterflies of the DISA world.
Oh, the life of the party.
You got it. The book introduces this awesome yellow character, Marita, the author's sister. She's just bursting with positivity, even when it's pouring rain.
Rain can't dampen that spirit.
Nope. And it's not just a surface thing, it's genuine enthusiasm, Contagious almost.
It sounds like they make every interaction a blast.
Totally. Think Oprah Winfrey or Robin Williams, that kind of energy. Connecting with people, sharing stories.
Okay, so downsides. There's got to be some, right? All that energy can't always be focused.
You're sharp. While yellows are fantastic at brainstorming and building relationships, they can struggle with, say, sticking to a plan.
Getting sidetracked. Happens to the best of us.
Exactly. They might jump from idea to idea, and sometimes details get lost in the shuffle.
Deadlines might be a bit of a challenge, too, then.
He said it. So how do we work effectively with yellows while appreciating all that awesome energy they bring?
Patience seems key. And maybe some gentle reminders to keep them on track.
Dingo. It's like going on a road trip with them. You're in for a fun ride, but there might be a few unexpected detours.
Sound like an adventure. Okay, what's next on our color wheel?
All right, let's tone it down a bit, shall we? Enter the greens.
Ah, the grounding force.
Precisely. Think of someone like Masha, the colleague everyone loves because she remembers birthdays and always listens.
The heart of the team.
Exactly. They value harmony, stability, putting others first. They're the peacemakers, the steady rocks.
They'll sound like a dream to work with.
They can be. But remember, every color has its challenges.
Right, right. So what trips up our greens?
Well, all that harmony seeking can sometimes backfire. They tend to avoid conflict even when it's necessary.
Ah, letting things fester. Not good.
Not ideal. They can also be a bit resistant to change, preferring the familiar and routine.
Makes sense. So how do we communicate with greens in a way that gets the message across, but doesn't ruffle any feathers?
Patience is key. Once again, lots of reassurance, especially when things are changing.
And really spell out why those changes are happening. They need to see the benefit.
You got it. Now, last but not least, we have the blues.
The detail-oriented folks.
You know it. In the book, there's this guy, Hans, who immediately notices a crooked cupboard door in a brand new kitchen.
That's so blue. Everything has to be just so.
They have a laser focus on details and accuracy. They're the analysts, the planners, the ones who catch all those tiny errors that everyone else misses.
Super valuable in any team. But I'm guessing there's a downside to all that meticulousness?
There is. Sometimes they can get stuck in the details, analyzing every single possibility.
Analysis paralysis.
Bingo. Decision-making can be a slow process for them. They need all the information, all the data before they commit to anything.
So how do we communicate with blues effectively? Give them all the data up front.
You're getting it. Be prepared, be organized, and avoid any vague language. Blues need to see the logic, the evidence, the step-by-step breakdown.
Got it. No hand-waving allowed.
Exactly. But here's the thing we need to remember.
Was it that?
Most people aren't just one color.
Right. We're all a mix.
And that's where things get even more interesting. How do those colors combine? What happens when you get a red with a dash of green or a blue with a splash of yellow?
Ooh, now that's a recipe for some fascinating dynamics.
And that's exactly what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive. Stay tuned.
It really is amazing how these colors can blend together. It creates so many different personality types,
Yeah, like mixing paint, you get a whole new color.
Exactly. And each blend has its own unique strengths and, challenges. Like, picture someone who's a mix of red and yellow.
Okay, I'm thinking. Red, the driven one. Yellow, the social butterfly.
Right. Put those together, and you might get a dynamic entrepreneur like Richard Branson, someone who's ambitious and energetic and just draws people in.
I can totally see that. But like we talked about before, even the best qualities can have a flip side.
Absolutely. That same red-yellow energy, it can lead to impulsive decisions sometimes. Or maybe not being so great at listening to other people's opinions.
So knowing your own colors is super important. Understanding how they affect you, especially when you're stressed.
Self-awareness is key, for
Yeah.
sure. And once you start recognizing those patterns in others, well, it can really help you communicate better.
Like, how would you approach someone who's a blue-green blend?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
They're probably super thorough and detail-oriented, but also a bit slow to make decisions.
And maybe not too fond of last-minute changes?
Exactly. Which could be a bit frustrating for someone who's more, say, red. Someone who likes to move fast and be adaptable.
For sure. So knowing those combinations, it's almost like having a cheat sheet for human interactions.
It's not about putting people in boxes. It's about understanding what makes them tick.
Exactly. It's like having this diaper level of understanding.
Right. It helps you see where they're coming from.
Now, I'm kind of curious about that red-green combo you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, the one from the book. The woman in the car industry.
Yeah, she was described as both demanding and caring.
That's the thing with red-greens. They can be a bit of a paradox. One side of them wants to achieve and take charge, while the other side prioritizes harmony and building relationships.
So they could be the boss who pushes you hard, but also checks in to see how you're doing, genuinely cares about your well-being.
Exactly. They might struggle with finding that balance, though, between being assertive and being empathetic.
That makes sense. So sometimes they might send mixed signals or maybe even experience some internal conflict.
It happens. But recognizing that duality, it can help us understand them better. And it helps us adapt how we talk to them.
Right, because at the end of the day, we're all just a mix of different colors, each with its own strengths and, weaknesses.
No one's perfect. And that's okay.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked a lot about theory, but how do we actually put this knowledge into practice? Like, how can we use this to improve how we communicate in real life?
Well, the book goes into that. It gives some really practical tips on tailoring your communication style to each color.
Like specific scenarios.
Yeah, like how to write better emails, how to run meetings, even how to give feedback more effectively.
That's super useful. Let's start with emails.
Okay, good one.
So I'm guessing a super long email with tons of tangents, that wouldn't go over so well with a red, would it?
You already know the answer.
Ha ha ha, I'm learning.
Reds, they appreciate brevity, get straight to the point, don't waste their time with unnecessary details.
Okay, so short and sweet. What about yellows? They seem to thrive on connection and storytelling. So a purely factual email, that might feel a bit cold, right?
You're getting it. With yellows, you want to inject a bit of personality, a little enthusiasm. Start with a friendly greeting, maybe share a quick story, and then get to your point. Keep it positive and engaging.
So it's all about finding that balance.
Exactly. Now with greens, patience and reassurance, those are key. If you're asking them to do something new or something's changing, really explain why and focus on how those changes will benefit everyone.
Emphasize the positive impact. Got it. And what about those blues? Am I right in thinking they'd appreciate a well-structured email, maybe with bullet points and like a spreadsheet attached?
You're on fire. Structure and data, that's their language. Keep it organized, use clear language, and back up your points with facts and figures.
So no vague language, everything's clear and logical. Now, email is just one piece of the puzzle.
Lots of ways we communicate, for sure.
What about meetings? Those can be tricky. I'm guessing a free-flowing brainstorming session, that might not be the best approach for a group of blues and greens.
Probably not. When you're planning a meeting, think about who's going to be there. If you've got a lot of blue and green energy in the room, a clear agenda is a must. Stick to the schedule and make sure there's time for discussion and analysis.
And if you've got more reds and yellows,
Then you can be a bit more flexible. Encourage brainstorming. Let the conversation flow a little more naturally.
adapt to the energy of the group. Okay, now for the one everyone dreads, giving feedback.
Ooh, yeah. Feedback. Everyone's favorite.
Especially the constructive kind.
It can be tough no matter what color you are.
The book had this great story about Mike, the author's colleague. He totally misinterpreted a public compliment.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It just shows how differently people perceive feedback.
Depends on their color, for sure.
So, how do we give feedback in a way that actually helps people without making them feel, attacked or deflated?
It's all about understanding who you're talking to. Like with reds, honesty and directness, those are key.
So no sugarcoating.
Nope. Focus on the behavior, the outcome, not the person. Give them clear expectations and specific advice on what they can do better.
Got it. And yellows, they seem a bit more sensitive to criticism.
They are. So with them, you want to frame feedback in a positive way. Start by acknowledging their strengths, then gently point out areas for improvement.
Focus on the future, how they can grow and develop their skills.
Exactly. And for greens, well, they need that extra sensitivity and patience.
Makes sense.
Feedback should be given in private, and always keep your tone calm and reassuring.
And avoid being too critical or confrontational.
Definitely. With greens, it's about offering support and guidance, not tearing them down. Focus on solutions, not just problems.
Got it. And what about blues?
Blues, data, data, data. Back up your feedback with specific examples and concrete data points. Don't be vague or make generalizations.
They need to see the evidence. Okay, so we've covered communication styles. But the book also talks about temperament.
Which is fascinating. It links back to those 4 humors that Hippocrates talked about, centuries ago.
Right, and those humors, they actually line up with the 4 colors. It's like they were onto something way back then.
They were. Temperament, it's all about how people react to stress, how they handle unexpected situations.
And the book has this great list of what it calls energy thieves.
The things that totally drain each color.
Exactly. Like for reds, lack of control, wasted time, and a slow pace, those are their biggest energy zappers.
And for yellows, it's boredom, routine, and feeling unappreciated.
Greens can't stand conflict, pressure, or sudden changes.
And blues, they get stressed by disorganization, inaccuracies, and criticism.
Knowing these triggers, it can help you avoid those communication breakdowns.
For sure. Create a more harmonious environment, both at work and at home.
It's about recognizing those early warning signs and knowing how to de-escalate the situation before things blow up.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up, how about a little fun?
Fun! I like the sound of that.
A quiz. To test your knowledge of these behavior types, are you up for the challenge?
Bring it on. I think I'm ready.
All right, let's see. Imagine you're in a real crisis situation. Everything's happening fast. Which color is most likely to jump into action, take charge, No hesitation.
Ooh, pressure situation. Okay, I'm gonna go with red. They just seem to thrive in those kind of chaotic moments.
Yeah.
Natural leaders.
Spot on. Reds, they're known for being decisive and staying cool under pressure.
Okay, good. All right, what's next?
Okay, let's flip it around. You're working on a project, deadline's looming. Which color is most likely to forget about the time and maybe miss sending that super important email?
The one who gets lost in conversation, maybe. I'm gonna say yellow.
You got it again. Yellows are so enthusiastic, so many ideas going on. Sometimes those practical details that just slip their mind.
2 for 2. Feeling good. All right, give me another one.
All right, big decision needs to be made. Which color is going to spend hours, maybe even days, researching every possible option, driving everyone else nuts with their indecision?
Oh, that's easy. It's gotta be blue. The data lovers, they need to analyze everything.
You're on a roll. Blues, they crave accuracy. They need to be absolutely certain before they commit to anything.
Makes sense. Okay, hit me with the last one.
Last one. Picture this.
Okay.
Meetings going on, disagreement breaks out, things get a little heated. Which color is most likely to just quietly disappear, hoping the whole thing will just blow over?
Oh, that's gotta be green. Harmony over everything. They avoid conflict at all costs.
Correct. 4 for 4. Looks like you've really mastered those color nuances.
Haha. Well, I had a great teacher. So, thinking about your own life, do you use this system? Has it actually helped you understand people better?
Oh, absolutely. Once you start seeing those patterns, it's like everything clicks. I remember working with this colleague, super strong red personality. We were constantly clashing. I'm more of a blue-green, so I like to take my time, gather all the info. And he was all about action, quick decisions. Once I realized we just had different color profiles, it was like a light bulb went off. His impatience wasn't personal. It was just how he operated.
Ah, so understanding that really changed the dynamic.
It did. We learned to work with each other's styles, and actually, we became a really productive team.
That's awesome. It shows how understanding these differences can really transform your interactions.
Totally. It's not about changing who you are. It's about recognizing those tendencies and adapting, learning how to connect better.
Well said.
Yeah.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into Surrounded by Idiots, let's leave our listeners with something to think about.
Sounds good. What you got?
Now that we've explored these different communication styles, how can we actually use this knowledge to improve our relationships at work, at home, everywhere?
Ooh, good question. Start by thinking about the people you interact with the most. Can you identify their dominant colors?
Exactly. And once you do, how can you adjust how you communicate with them? How can you connect on a deeper level, build stronger relationships?
It's an ongoing process, but it's so worth it.
Totally agree. We've all been there, right? Communication breaks down, frustration sets in, things get messy. But understanding those underlying motivations, those communication preferences, it can help us bridge those gaps.
It's like learning a new language, the language of human behavior.
Exactly. And the more fluent we become, the better we can navigate those complex interactions. So until next time, happy communicating, everyone.